What happened in Venezuela didn't come out of nowhere, and it wasn't about one single issue. When the United States takes direct military action against another country, especially this early in a new political cycle, it's never impulsive. These kinds of moves usually happen when multiple pressures line up at the same time. So the real question isn't what happened, it's why this moment forced action. On the surface, the story is framed around crime, security, and stability. But those explanations don't fully explain the timing, the scale, or the urgency of the response. To understand what's really going on, you have to look at how Venezuela fits into the global picture right now. Venezuela is not just a country with oil. It's a country sitting at the intersection of energy, geopolitics, and financial power. Energy still matters enormously in the global economy, not just because it fuels growth, but because it directly affects inflation. When energy prices rise, everything becomes more expensive. When energy prices fall, governments and central banks suddenly have more room to maneuver. From a U.S. perspective, having uncertainty around a major oil producer during a fragile global recovery is a risk. Stability of supply matters just as much as ownership of resources. But energy alone doesn't explain the move. Another major factor is influence. For years, Venezuela has aligned itself with countries that openly challenge U.S. dominance in global trade, finance, and diplomacy. That alignment has grown more structured over time, especially in areas like energy sales, infrastructure investment, and alternative settlement systems. At some point, that stops being symbolic and starts becoming strategic. The United States has historically been very clear about one thing: it does not tolerate permanent rival influence in its immediate hemisphere. When external powers gain long-term leverage close to U.S. borders, that's when red lines appear. This wasn't about punishing Venezuela. It was about preventing a shift that would be hard to reverse later. There's also a financial dimension that rarely gets discussed openly. The global system runs on confidence. Confidence in currencies, in settlement systems, in trade routes, and in enforcement. When sanctioned countries successfully operate outside that system for long periods of time, it weakens the credibility of the rules themselves. From Washington's perspective, allowing that precedent to grow is dangerous. Once one country proves it can operate independently, others follow. That's how parallel systems form, and parallel systems reduce leverage. Timing matters here too. This action happened early, deliberately early. That's not accidental. Early moves define expectations. They tell allies and rivals what kind of administration this will be, how quickly it acts, and how seriously it takes perceived threats. It's a way of setting the tone before situations escalate further. There's also a domestic layer to this. Strong foreign action has always played a role in U.S. politics. It projects decisiveness, shifts media focus, and reframes narratives around leadership and control. That doesn't mean it's the main reason, but it's never irrelevant. Markets, too, react to clarity more than comfort. Extended uncertainty freezes capital. Decisive action, even when controversial, often stabilizes expectations. Energy markets reprice. Defense spending becomes predictable. Investors reposition. In that sense, this wasn't just geopolitics, it was macro management. So when you put all of this together, the picture becomes clear. This wasn't about drugs, it wasn't just about oil, and it wasn't about Venezuela alone. It was about influence, enforcement, and preventing structural shifts in a global system that's already under stress. Whether people agree with the move or not, the logic behind it follows a familiar pattern. Power doesn't disappear quietly. It reacts when boundaries are tested. The real risk now isn't what already happened. It's how other players respond. Because once lines are drawn, someone always decides to see how real they are.